Let's talk about Gino Smith and the Las Vegas Raiders. Somehow it continues to get worse as the season goes on. They're currently 1-4 as I record this video, and they've lost their last 4 games straight. But I want to focus in on what they did this offseason before I get into the actual problems that they have right now on the field. You had Antonio Pierce. He was an interim head coach 2 years ago. He came in and they fired Josh McDaniels because he was terrible, and they fired Dave Ziegler in the front office. But you move on from him. The coaches were not big fans of Antonio Pierce. The front office, they soured on him. You push him out the door. You bring in Pete Carroll. Now, the Seahawks had moved off of Pete Carroll. They wanted to bring in a younger head coach that was willing to make defensive adjustments to go against names like Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay and even Coach LaFleur with the Green Bay Packers. The Seahawks front office felt like Pete Carroll and his system was outdated, and they were right, by the way. He was an older head coach that was stuck in his ways. And you look at Seattle right now, they're in the come up in the NFC. But Pete Carroll, some of his worst years in Seattle towards the end, 8-9, 9-8, that's a win for the Raiders. The Raiders can barely win 7 wins most seasons, especially with Antonio Pierce and Josh McDaniels. So you have someone like Pete Carroll. He's a better head coach historically than both of those coaches combined. He's won a Super Bowl in Seattle, a Super Bowl appearance the next year. So you think that long term, Pete Carroll can help stabilize his organization. You need to bring in a brand new starting quarterback. Aiden O'Connell, he wasn't cutting it. Gardner Minshew, he was a terrible starter. Those are your starting quarterbacks from last year. They moved on from Derek Carr with Josh McDaniels to bring in Jimmy Garoppolo. He was terrible. So you bring in Gino Smith. Gino Smith had a solid career with the Seattle Seahawks when Pete Carroll was there. Let's not forget, as soon as they traded Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos, many people thought they were dead in the water. They made the NFL playoffs that first year, and Geno Smith was a starting quarterback. You did lose against the 49ers. There's that coach again in Kyle Shanahan. But you made the NFL playoffs with a journeyman quarterback in Geno Smith. It was a very good story. So you trade a mid-round pick to bring in Geno Smith, and you give this man a contract extension on top of that. 2 years, $75 million, which includes $66.5 million in guaranteed money. That's insane. And the reason why I say that, Geno Smith last year did not have a good season. 15 interceptions, 21 passing touchdowns. Now, to give him some help here, terrible offensive line play, a terrible offensive coordinator, and Ryan Grubb, who wanted to pass the football around the field majority of the time. They got away from the run game. And we all know this about Geno Smith. He's not a superstar quarterback. He's not going to be your franchise guy. But we've seen Geno Smith go out there and have good moments. 20 passing touchdowns and 9 interceptions. The year before in 2022, 30 passing touchdowns to 11 interceptions. But that's a short sample size for a quarterback that has been in the league for 12 years now. But you bring him in, you think that he's going to be better than Jimmy Garoppolo. The same with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. It's Geno Smith. He's better than all those quarterbacks. Not quite. Because in 5 games this season, this man has 9 interceptions to just 6 passing touchdowns. He leads the league in interceptions. He's terrible in this system with Chip Kelly. He's been horrible. I said this last week, if he continues to turn the football over at this rate, you have to make a decision at the quarterback position. And I know that Pete Carroll doesn't want to. He loves Geno Smith. That emotion is there. He loves him like he's his son, the same way he loved Russell Wilson. But Pete Carroll has to realize this man will get you fired. You can't keep him on the field anymore as a starter. I'm sorry. 2 interceptions against the Indianapolis Colts yesterday in a complete blowout, 40-6 against the Chicago Bears. Geno Smith had 3 interceptions. And everyone's talking about the simple fact, well, the kicker had his field goal attempt blocked. Sure. You lost this matchup by 1 point, and Geno Smith had 3 interceptions. If he doesn't have those 3 interceptions, you possibly win that matchup in blowout fashion against the Bears. Your defense was helping you out early on, and this was the Ashton Genty game. This is the matchup to where he had the most rushing yards in Raiders history in terms of a loss. That's insane. So the run game was there in that matchup, and yet your quarterback is still holding you back. Against the Washington Commanders, 3 passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Let's be honest here. Garbage time stats because you got blown out in this matchup 41-24. Against the Los Angeles Chargers, he had 3 interceptions in that matchup. 0 passing touchdowns. The only game that he looked solid in was in week 1 against the Patriots. And he had the one bad decision trying to force the football to Brock Bowers. It went for an interception. The rest of the game, he did look better. But I'm telling you right now, Geno Smith looks like a backup quarterback. He's not good enough. And Kenny Pickett, he's not a good starter either. But this is the one thing with Kenny Pickett. He may be able to go out there and just take care of the football. Because in so many moments this season, you're driving the field. Here comes Gino Smith with an interception. Just a back-breaking play constantly. And this is not a player that's a rookie or is in his second year. He's a 12-year veteran. I just don't understand. You go out there and you trade a draft pick for this man and you give him a contract extension on top of that. Seattle realized we can bring in Sam Darnold to fit this system with our offensive coordinator and Clint Kubiak, and we'll be better off because of it. And they moved on from Geno Smith. And I look at someone like Chip Kelly. You're the highest paid offensive coordinator in the NFL, which is crazy to think about, by the way, because he wasn't even in the NFL last year. He was the offensive coordinator for the Ohio State University. That is how much the Raiders wanted to bring this man in. His offensive system doesn't work. Now, a lot of it is because the players aren't good enough on the offensive line. In order for Chip Kelly to run the system that he wants, the offensive line talent has to be there. Kolton Miller is a phenomenal tackle. He's on IR right now dealing with an injury. And you have Jackson Powers-Johnson. Right now, he's their best offensive lineman. Outside those players, your offensive line is not good. And it's hurting Ashton Jeanty. And whenever they do have the run game going into place, Chip Kelly, he gets away from the run. He wants to pass the football around with Geno Smith, who has been a turnover-prone quarterback up to this point in time in the season. He wants to get the football to Brock Bowers, the same with Michael Mayer in the red zone with Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers. Run this offense through Ashton Jeanty when the offensive line is red hot. Ashton Jeanty is a very good football player. Ashton Jeanty has the talent to be one of the best players in this league. But this is the problem with Ashton Jeanty. Even though he's averaging 4.3 yards a carry, 349 rushing yards, that's the ninth most rushing yards in the NFL up to this point. More times than not, he doesn't have space and opportunity to run and to get big yards. We know him for being this big play back at Boise State. He's breaking 2 to 3 tackles at the line of scrimmage. He's doing the best that he can. But the offensive line talent isn't good enough. This is why I hate when certain teams draft running backs in the first round. The pre-draft evaluation, you may say take the best player available, sure. But if it's the running back position, it's different. This position is dependent on the quarterback position and on the offensive line. They will stack the box against you over and over again, and this is what teams are starting to do. This is already a weak offensive line. Look at Saquon with the Giants. He has some great moments. Don't get me wrong. But the best year of his career came with the Philadelphia Eagles. They already had a strong offensive line in place, a top quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and weapons on the outside. You select a running back later on in the NFL draft. They may not be as talented as the other running backs that came before them, but you can still get production out of that position. And you don't have to spend a first-round pick on that position. I don't hate Ashton Jeanty. I think that he's a phenomenal football player. But this team, they had bigger needs than the running back position. And with Brock Bowers being out right now, the receiving position is also an issue. Trey Tucker is a very good football player in terms of going out there and taking safeties with him and taking hung corners with him because of the speed that he has. He has 4 receiving touchdowns as I record this video. You have Jacoby Myers. He's a very good wide receiver. Was very productive with the Patriots, has been very productive with the Las Vegas Raiders. But outside those 2 wide receivers, you have a huge problem in that wide receiving room. And with Brock Bowers not being on the field, he's played the last couple of weeks with a knee injury. You have no one else to go to. So the talent isn't good enough on the perimeter. The offensive line talent is abysmal outside of Kolton Miller and the same with Jackson Powers-Johnson. And now we have this quarterback that's a veteran. He's supposed to make the smart play over and over again. Instead, he looks like another version of Joe Flacco. A guy that's just throwing the football into bad coverage over and over again, and he's misreading the field, and he can't read NFL defenses. This is who Gino Smith is, unfortunately. And this is coming from a Gino Smith fan with the Seattle Seahawks. He was a very good player the first 2 years in Seattle. But it's a reason why he's been a journeyman. He's just not good enough. As a backup, he's solid. He can come in for a couple games and give you good moments. As a starter, you can't build around him. I'm sorry. This is what the Jets realized, and the same with the Giants, and the same with the Chargers. That's why he was a backup quarterback. But you've paid this man like he's a starter. It's a typical Raiders decision to go out there and to bring in a quarterback that's not good enough when you thought that you were upgrading a position, but you're not. And I don't think that's going to get easier for the Las Vegas Raiders. You face the Tennessee Titans this upcoming week. That should be a win. The Titans only have one win, just like the Raiders, but they have a young quarterback in Cam Ward. Then you face Kansas City. The Raiders always play Kansas City very tough. That was the case underneath Antonio Pierce. We'll see how Pete Carroll plays against this team. But you have Kansas City, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Kansas City and Jaguars, two of the better teams in the AFC as I record this video. Then the Denver Broncos, the Dallas Cowboys, the Cleveland Browns. This team could actually be 1-7 over the next couple weeks. That is how bad things has gotten for the Las Vegas Raiders. The coaching staff, they aren't making those adjustments, and it starts with Pete Carroll, the head coaching position, and the same with Chip Kelly. It's a group effort here. And defensively, I don't think that the defense is bad. I think that Patrick Graham is a very good defensive coordinator. He hasn't made the right adjustments over the last couple of weeks, but it's only so much your defense can do when your quarterback is throwing 3 interceptions in a matchup. Max Crosby is still one of the best players at his position. You have Malcolm Kuntz, Tyree Wilson. Tyree Wilson has not lived up to that first-round pick hype, but he's not a terrible player anymore. He's had some flashes this year, especially against the Bears. He can give you some good production. He's just not going to ever be that star that you wanted to have alongside Max Crosby. As a rotational pass rusher, he's solid. I don't know who idea it was to bring in Jamal Adams and let him be a starting linebacker for the Raiders. And I'm looking at Pete Carroll right now. That's not a good decision in my opinion, because we've seen this over and over again now. When you're a safety that can't cover in space, a lot of coaches want to put you at linebacker. The problem is this. He's not big enough to be a linebacker. So when he goes against a center, he goes against a guard. 9 times out of 10, they're pushing him back. It's hurting the rushing defense of the Raiders. And this is already a player he just can't cover. He was a very good and impactful safety with the New York Jets. Pete Carroll loved him with Seattle. He wants to give him a chance the same way he wants to give Gino Smith a chance. He has a great heart. But you have to make some of the harsh decisions here. And I'm not just trying to place all the blame on Jamal Adams here, but it's a reason why no other team was willing to bring this man in at the linebacker position. And he'll have a couple of good plays, but as a starting linebacker, I'm scratching my head at that decision right now with Jamal Adams. You have a Landon Roberts, Devin White. Devin White has bounced around the NFL over the last few years. This is just a bad situation with the Las Vegas Raiders. They're just not good enough. And it's the same song and dance over and over again with this organization. No matter who the head coach is, no matter who the quarterback is. We can go back many years ago, and I believe they made a crucial mistake when I bring this up. You had John Gruden as a head coach. They fired John Gruden, and I understand why. The emails that leaked out, they had to move on from him. The NFL, they're never going to let him live that down. But you had the right coach, in my opinion, and Rich Bisaccia, who became the interim head coach. He was a special teams coach at the time. Let's push John Gruden out the door for a second here. Rich Bisaccia took over the season. You had the Henry Ruggs situation. He's in jail. That car accident that he got into. This team is battling through a lot. They lost their head coach. They still made the NFL playoffs that year. And they were just a couple plays away from defeating the Cincinnati Bengals. I am shocked that they moved off of Rich Bisaccia to this day to bring in Josh McDaniels, a Patriot guy. How many Patriot guys go to other teams, and how many of those guys are successful? Truly, there's not many of them. And you brought him in with Dave Ziegler. You had Derek Carr at the quarterback position. And say what you want to say about Derek Carr. He has some bad moments. He has some good moments. In Raiders history, he's going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks of all time. We can look at the history he's had over the last few years with the Saints. He should have never been a Saint to begin with. He should have retired as a Raider. But instead, they pushed that man out the door. And they bring in Jimmy Garoppolo. And nothing hasn't been right at the quarterback position since then. And even though Derek Carr has some bad moments with the Raiders, he has still played better than Geno Smith, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, and Jimmy Garoppolo. And that's for damn sure. All those quarterbacks combined. And Derek Carr went down with that injury many years ago, and they still made the NFL playoffs, and they lost against the Houston Texans in the first round. But it's just bad management over and over again. And I understand it's just the first year with Pete Carroll, but we've seen this before with the Raiders. We know how this story ends. They may get 3-4 wins this season, and that's it. But this was supposed to be a fun year for the Las Vegas Raiders. They sold you on restabilizing the organization. We have Tom Brady in our front office now. He's helping us make decisions. He's won 7 championships in his career. He knows what it takes to win championships. That's what the owner said. He was so hell-bent on that. We have Tom Brady here helping us now. And instead you come out flat. I weren't expecting for the Raiders to go out there and make the NFL playoffs this year with Gino Smith and Pete Carroll. You have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City in your division. The same with the Chargers with Justin Herbert and Coach Harbaugh. And Bo Nix and Sean Payton and the Broncos. Amazing coaches. You add all these Super Bowls up together, this is one of the best divisions in NFL history, head coaching-wise. But I expected for them to be more competitive. But that hasn't been the case here. You're getting blown out by the Colts. You're getting blown out by the Chargers and the same against the Commanders. You're not competitive in those matchups. It was just one good week for the Raiders, and that was it. But it's the same song and dance with this organization over and over again. And in this year's draft class, no matter what happens moving forward with Gino Smith, you have to look at quarterbacks in the first round this year. You have to draft that quarterback in the first round and go on from there. But I don't know what they're going to do with this coaching staff if they continue to look this way. But let me know in the comment section below how you feel about the Las Vegas Raiders. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless.